Hey, welcome back to Reddit Cheating Wife, the best channel for cheating stories. Like and subscribe to the channel for cheating stories like this. I learned an important life lesson. I, 36 male, met my wife, 33 female, 4 years ago and was taken aback by her open and unapologetic cheating. We had highs and lows like any other relationship, but I never expected the lows to be so low. We married 2 years ago and everything seemed perfect. We both worked in the same sector, but at different firms. I was a manager, and she was just starting out, and working together would be against corporate policy. Because we worked at different firms and were over an hour apart, I never imagined infidelity would occur because things had been going so well at home. I could work for 12 hours and then come home to food, and anything else that anybody would want to do after a hard day. That's not to say I didn't do the same thing, I always did. Every week on my way home, one of my favorite things to do was to deliver Mom her favorite flowers. She squealed every time I walked through the door with flowers, and she gushed even more when they opened up to reveal their full color. We started arguing about a year into the relationship, but it was nothing more than ordinary misunderstandings. Although I was worried, I ascribed it to some of our financial problems. She hadn't been earning as much, and even though I was the major provider, what I produced didn't always provide us with the comforts we had enjoyed months before. I constantly assured her that things will get better, and they did. I was given a raise, as was she, but the disagreements did not fade as quickly as I had hoped. Fast forward to March 2020, and the pandemic has financially us both. I qualified for aid and quickly accepted it to ensure we have the necessities. She, on the other hand, did not qualify and was naturally disappointed, so when other firms outside of our field were recruiting, she went for it and obtained a position. I was earning close to what I was making pre-pandemic on a weekly basis at the time, and we agreed that it would be unwise to go out and hunt for a job that would effectively set me back in my career. This meant I'd remain at home and help out while she worked, and we'd be great with both incomes. Prior to and throughout her employment, I helped her by making sure she had all of her paperwork filled out, waking up early to help her get her lunch, occasionally showing up to her job to take her out to lunch, and taking care of most of the other housework she wouldn't always have time for. I had no idea that her newfound happiness had nothing to do with just getting a job and returning to a much more solid financial situation. According to what she told me, the affair began practically as soon as she obtained the job in May and lasted until I returned to work in August, leaving the house unattended. I found out about the affair in November when I arrived home one day to get something I had forgotten and found the door bolted. I discovered a bath drawn with candles lighted and her wrapped in a towel when she eventually arrived to the door. The chain door was uncommon, and it piqued my interest since we lived in a guarded building that required a key fob or a code to access. As I looked around, I observed a shadow behind the bed in a nearby mirror. I shouted at him to rise up and face me, and for the first time, I recognized the person who was cheating on my wife was someone I had met several times when I picked her up from work. My wife officially introduced me to him, and I immediately felt ill to my stomach. He quickly departed, and I sat there feeling dumb. When I questioned why, she became upset at me for finding out and, when pushed further, said she felt a connection. From there, I knew I had to go, but I had never planned an escape strategy. My assets had been significantly drained as a result of COVID, and moving out was no longer a possibility. So I had to put up with that for the next 2 months until I could relocate. By far the most mind-numbing time period I've ever experienced. We slept in different sections of the house and went on as if we were roommates. I wanted to be courteous, not for her sake, but for my own. That was not to be, as I discovered she had gotten pregnant as a consequence of the adultery, and I just ripped the wound open more, making me feel like things couldn't get much worse. She also continued to flaunt the connection in front of me, and knowing what was likely going on while I wasn't home made going to work unpleasant. Worse, after I moved out, she refused to pay the rent, and the management firm continued sending me notifications about it. In January, I moved out and began saving money for a lawyer and counseling. I should mention that she never thought I'd file, and I made careful not to give the impression that I would. It gave me enough time to meet with a lawyer, who looked through all the data and first advised me to file for divorce but then concluded that an annulment would be preferable. The lawyer also wrote letters to guarantee that I was not held liable for the lease, as well as papers with the IRS to divide our tax bills. We filed at the end of May, 1 year after I thought the affair started. Since then, it has come to light that she may have had more than one affair partner, and by more than one, I mean 3 or more. We had her served at work about a week ago since it had come to my knowledge that she had moved out of the apartment and given the keys, got an email from the management company. Now I have to wait since she has 35 days to react before the case falls into default and the decree is issued. Thank you for your time. Story 2. My 39 male, wife, 33 female, cheated on me with a person in my friend group, and I'm trying to navigate the ripple effect. I'll make every effort to keep this as short as possible. We've been married for almost 6 years and together for around 9 years. It was only a few weeks ago that my wife came clean to me and said that she'd had an extramarital affair with a member of our social circle once before. He's someone I consider a friend, but not a close friend, and he's not a core aspect of the group of people with whom I spend most of my time on a regular basis. Our core group of pals is very close, almost like family to us. The outsider, and one of the few single or unmarried people in the group, is on the outside looking in. Anyway. Moreover, since we first discussed what happened, we've been staying at home, working on difficulties at home, attending therapy, and bonding in ways that had evaded us previous to her choice to end the relationship. We came to the realization that we'd been estranged as a couple, that we'd stopped operating as a unit over the course of many years. Because of time restrictions and other extended family events that took their toll, it was necessary to postpone the wedding. We, on the other hand, checked out. That's something for which I'm equally responsible. We're working on it, and we both want to see this through to the end. Despite the fact that I'm furious and dissatisfied, I still love my wife. She feels terrible about herself for basically taking on all of the guilt and absolving the other party. We have a good product, all that remains is for us to refine some of the nuances. However, since this has been public knowledge, we haven't gone out with our friends in a long time. I alerted a small group of our friends about what had transpired. I am more open to them. Those who are closest to the other person, on the other hand, do not share this opinion. It is not their job to make this information public. So my concern is that he will show up or hang out somewhere and I will be surprised. Even though I'm not going to start a fight with him, I'm going to leave as soon as possible, barring any unforeseen circumstances. My wife has pledged her support for me in overcoming this obstacle that I must overcome. His presence in our lives must be minimized to the greatest extent possible. As a result, in my view, our friend group as a whole has to be aware of what has transpired, else, we may find it difficult to maintain our friendship with them. It seems that it will be revealed in one form or another. My wife's primary trigger is humiliation, and she has the greatest difficulty dealing with guilt. I don't want her to be in any more pain than she already is, but it looks like being honest with our friends is the only way out of this mess we find ourselves in. Even while I would not encourage children to choose a side, I would want them to understand why we would avoid certain organizations. Bringing this up with our counselor and recommending that she be honest with our friends would allow us to solve the issue and, hopefully, go on to being social once again, is something I'm excited about. I'm worried that my wife will be vehemently opposed to the idea of having children. Is there a more effective method of dealing with this situation with her? It doesn't look as if I'm going to contact our counselor about it since it appears to be the most secure location in terms of comfort. Is it possible that I'm not handling this correctly? Despite the fact that some people believe I'm being overdramatic, my husband and I have built a life for ourselves that is, for the most part great, and we believe it is well worth continuing our marriage. We have the ability to narrow the gap that we detected. It is possible that she may get the emotional support she has been seeking. We are, however, better at tackling problems when we are working together. The most effective method to go past something is often to face it. We are madly in love with one another.